And then one more check for you guys on Zoom. Can you guys see my screen okay? It should say Hack School Workshop 1 HTML and CSS. Just to make sure that you guys are seeing the slides as we're going along. Okay, awesome, great. Great. Okay, should we get started?
Okay.
Awesome.
Given those people.
Yeah, the screen, the code will be on the next.
Yeah, and then because there's people in here probably don't take them.
And then when do you want to show your thing? What did they send you off about?
Do you want to do something? You can just
there's no
turn
HTML.
your like thing. And as you're you can just use this camera for like the best you can do. If you want to use camera.
Where's my meeting control? It keeps disappearing.
It's at the top.
It's not
It's not at the top. It's at the top of that screen.
Also on the screen.
Take it back.
Okay, so start here.
Turn off your like back.
Yes, on.
Okay, hopefully you guys are able to see me and are kind of able to see like as we're talking here. Hopefully it helps you out, but yeah, we'll get started in like a minute. Yeah, it's recording right now. Okay, great. Okay. Okay, hey everybody, we're gonna get started now. Hopefully, I'm gonna ask you one more time. So, if you're here and start installing this channel, I have you guys have 3 things kind of ready. You should have downloaded on your computer. You should have a GitHub account, and you should have GitHub as well. Does anyone not have that, or do you need help getting that set up? Okay, please speak up when everyone has it. We're gonna need it for the big workshop, but if you do need help with anything, just raise your hand and we'll have some people out. They'll be working on and yeah, you can kind of get started here. So welcome to Hack School. Congratulations on getting in. We read all your applications and we think that you guys kind of had really confident answers, and you guys are super excited to learn the content, which will be the MERN stack, which is just that of various technologies. That's pretty good to know. So this is going to be like a workshop series. Basically, this is our first one, and we'll have 4 others from various areas of building people kind of applications, the front end, back end. And yeah. So this is our first one. We're going to talk about HTML and CSS, which are kind of foundations for the project that we're going to be building. So, kind of first things first. If you guys haven't checked in already, you can make sure to check in. This is the code. You can check in at acbc.com and just check in with this code so you can get your membership points and you can get cool merch. Yeah, I'll give you guys a minute to do that. So while I'm kind of doing this, or while we have this up and before we jump into the actual thing, I do want to kind of acknowledge who's up here putting on Hack School. So my name is Nikhil. I'm the 3rd year thinker. Hopefully you guys can meet me in Cookie. She's your second major. We're going to be running Hack School. Hopefully you guys have a chance to meet us at our conversation last week. But if you didn't, so feel free to come up and say hi after the workshop. I also want to acknowledge our Hack School out there in the back. You guys stand up or raise your hands in the back there. You guys want to come up and introduce yourself, just because they're going to be kind of our mentors. They're going to be our mentors. They're going to be helping out with the radio workshop series. Since they're going to us and many of you. So we'll have them introduce themselves here.
Hi everyone, I'm a very engineering major, and I'm excited to be part of this project. If you guys have any questions with the on Discord and
so we all I'm a CSS major, and yeah, so I'm a senior math, yes, maybe I didn't know it's tax one.
And I'm very excited that I'm also really excited to be here.
Hello, I'm Connie. I'm a third year. Awesome, Ella, and I'm CSS leader, and also excited. Yay.
Awesome. Give them a round of applause. They're good help there. Yeah, so they'll kind of just be like spread out throughout the room. When we kind of get into the actual coding part of this, I know that's what you guys are all here for. They're gonna just be like hovering around the tables. And if you ever have any questions, don't hesitate to throw your hand up. They're there to help you. They're there to clarify things for you. So just never be afraid, basically, to raise your hand. Someone will raise their hand. Okay. So let's get into it. So this is what we're going to be covering today. First, we're going to kind of start touching on what is web development, because that's kind of the theme of the project that we're putting together. We're going to start introducing the front end. HTML and CSS are two technologies that are necessary for putting together the front end, and that's where we'll start on our application. We're going to actually get into the HTML and CSS. We're going to teach you guys what it is. We're going to have a chance for you guys to do some live coding with your tables. And we'll then coding as well. And then at the very end, we're kind of going to introduce the project that we're going to be putting together. So you guys can get excited for what we will accomplish throughout the workshop series. So really quickly, just because this is like an application-based program, you guys can go to this YouTube URL and check in. We just want to kind of the head count for who we admitted and who's actually coming to the in-person workshops. So I'll give you guys like 2 minutes to just go here and fill it out really quickly. I think it's just your name, email, and Discord. So go ahead and do that just so that we can maintain our head count and make sure everything is good numbers wise. Have seats for everyone. Okay, yeah, so I'm assuming most of you guys have already got these in, and just to highlight a couple other links that you guys might want to kind of take note of, or if you guys want to get these open right now, these are some important links that will probably be helpful during this workshop. So we have the slides from workshop 0, which is last week's workshop. We kind of introduced software engineering, and they have a couple of links to things that you need to download, as well as kind of just like general information about software engineering. So if you ever want to refer to those, feel free to go to this basic URL. If you want a copy of these slides as we go along, go ahead and go to the second basic URL. And for our GitHub repository that we'll be working from, that's the link to it. Don't do anything there quite yet. We're going to get to that as we get to the live coding portion. So if you guys just want to have it open, then feel free to, but we will jump into it once we go. Yeah, and then before we actually jump into the rest of the workshop, since you guys are kind of, we set this up, so we want Hack School to be kind of an interactive experience and not just like, you guys go to lectures during the day and we don't want to be lecturing at you during the night. So we want this to be an interactive kind of like experience where you not just learn how to code, but meet people as well. So if you guys could take 2 minutes to introduce yourselves to the people at your table, just go around, maybe name, major, year, pronouns, and anything else that you guys want to share. Feel free to just get to know the people around you, because they will be a really good resource. You get stuff in one product to help you. You can always just kind of maybe already help from them. So yeah, go ahead and do that for 2 minutes. Everyone introduce yourselves, and we'll get into the concept. I just have the new slide in here. I don't know what my meeting is. Hey, hopefully you had a chance to meet everybody and get to know who you can you. You guys didn't, don't worry, you guys have the workshop, know each other. So yeah, hopefully you like people around you too. You're gonna be next to them for the next like hour and a half. But yeah, keep the back arrow. Right, doesn't work. Okay, well, the question basically that we wanted to ask everybody here is, what is web development? Because I feel like some people are definitely new to this, and that's the whole point of Practical. We're kind of taking that from the start. So does anyone feel like they have a better answer? Feel free to raise your hand. Answer the question, what is web development? I'm gonna call on people if they don't like raise it. Okay, good.
That's creating of what people would see on a website or like what people want to graph with. On a website.
Creating what people see on the website, this is the key word, right? About development. So yeah, I'm just gonna answer if you want anything, either an alternate definition or anything that comes with that or anything like that. You have anything?
Someone that makes interactive experiences.
Someone that makes interactive experiences, so maybe kind of thinking the web developer part of the web development here.
So the information architect.
Information architects, I like that definition, yeah, I like saying that in context. Software stuff, but yeah, basically, this is the original web developer, this is true. Hopefully you guys get the meme. But yeah, I mean, web development is kind of just like everything that you guys mentioned all in one. Take the first word web and you're basically talking about the internet. And then development kind of in this context refers to the software development that's put up on the web. So web developers are generally in charge of putting together the content, like we said, that we see on the internet, that we see on the web. But this encompasses so many different aspects. It's you know, web developers aren't just people who code in HTML and CSS. Web developers are people who manage kind of the entire pipeline of what's on the internet. When it comes to putting together a website. So that can mean the actual content that goes on the website, building the structure of websites, building the infrastructure of websites so that you know you can access the website in California and then you can access the website across the world. So web developers have it's a pretty broad umbrella under which a lot of more niche topics fall. But web development is kind of the name of the game when it comes to the product that we're building. It's going to be something that runs in your browser or on the internet. So web development there. And within web development, I guess you can kind of take that umbrella and split it into two sides in the context of software development on the web, which is front end and back end. So we covered this last week. So I want to see if there's like anyone who paid attention last week and is also here and like ready to learn. Can anyone tell me the difference between front end and back end? Yeah. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, front end, like we said, is kind of just like what a user would actually see on the website, or it doesn't have to be a website. This isn't kind of in the context of web development, but front end generally refers to anything that you see, that the user might see and interact with, front facing basically. And then back end, I think you mentioned something about processing the actual data or processing whatever the user does on the website. Anyone have like a more, specific definition for either one of those? I think this question back end, because we mentioned that front end is interfaces, back end is. Anyone have any thoughts about that? Yeah, I can do it. Databases, yeah, absolutely, that's one part of it. Anyone else?
Anyone in the back?
No? Okay, well, that's what you're here for, we'll teach you. So, yeah, backend more generally kind of just refers to anything that the user doesn't immediately see, kind of like, you want to think about it as a pretty distracted the business logic of an application. So if you fill out the form, you know, if you apply to UCSD, what happens when you get submitted? Where does the data go? Where is it stored? How is it handled? That's kind of more generally what the backend is to. And you can think about it like server logic, and you do have an entire workshop dedicated to both the front end and the back end. Eventually we get to our stuff later in the series. Are there any questions about anything we talked about? So here's a meme. That's the front end at the top. Everything is nice and peaceful and happy, but then that's the back end and everything is ugly and there's a big mess back there. That's just kind of the way that people like to talk about it, because the front end looks all pretty and the back end doesn't really have anything to represent. So that's just a meme. Don't let it scare you, because back end is definitely the better of the two. That's something I'm gonna be like kind of pushing on you guys. I'm just saying. You can choose either one. Both are great, but or both. Maybe you guys will be inspired to, since this is a full stack project, maybe you guys will be inspired to do both. But yeah, it's kind of some humor to lighten the mood. So like we kind of mentioned, we have front end developers and back end developers. There are people kind of dedicated to these entire roles, because these are really, really big things. In the context of this application that we're building, you guys have the chance to build the entire front end and the entire back end, but for larger applications, people necessarily do. So we have dedicated front end developers who are in charge of building user interfaces, and we have dedicated back end developers who are in charge of handling data, handling the logic of the application. If your application has people who log in, like Facebook, they handle things like user authentication, storing the actual data, storing all your Facebook profile information, storing what friends you have, that sort of thing. So yeah, that's pretty much kind of the front end and the back end dichotomy there. I think we have some seats at that table over there for anyone who just came in. So get comfy. So first, we're going to be diving into like the first technical thing that we're going to be covering, and that's HTML. So HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, which I think is kind of a misleading name because it's not technically considered a programming language. It's more of like you can think of it as something between markup language and an actual language. And I think if you guys are kind of curious on when you learn this sort of stuff, depending on who you take, I believe CSS 110 covers HTML and web development, but Haskell is way, way better. So good for you guys being here. But yeah, HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and it's kind of viewed as the kind of like the main structure and the content of what you're going to be putting onto your page. So we have diagrams later on to kind of illustrate the differences between HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. That HTML generally refers to the basic structuring that your page is going to take, and the basic content that you're going to be putting into your page. And if this is confusing, well, we have examples later on, but we will get into that now. So if you want to go to the next slide. So HTML is kind of a way to structure your data, as I mentioned, the structure and the data that you're putting into your website. So you can see here that HTML is foundationally built on HTML tags. This is the way that we put in all of our information to our website and kind of split it up based on where we want our information to be. So, you can kind of think about it like, okay, I want my page to have a title, but where do you put it? So this is kind of the main structure of an HTML page here that we'll see, and then we'll have examples listed on as well. You can kind of see that these things right here, these two things, they're HTML. Generally tags open, the opening and the closing tags, you can see title opens here, and then title closes here. And generally closing tags are marked by this kind of like slash, and then the rest of the tag name is there. So in this case, when we write all metadata goes here, in title, we're putting some content for our page within the tag. And then later on, you can see that we have kind of two body tags, which might lead you to believe like, okay, that's the body of our actual website. So within the body tag, we have a paragraph tag, where we basically just written all site content goes here with an exclamation mark. So this is kind of where we're putting our text for our what's actually on our website. So if you want to go to the next slide, we actually have a representation of what this looks like. So it's kind of cut off at the top there, but basically you can see that if you've ever been on a website, you know that it has like a title on the tab. So that's where our all metadata goes here, part of it went, because that wasn't in the body of our HTML. But in the body, we had a paragraph and it says all site content goes here. So that's where we can have anything that we want to put in the body of our actual web application goes within the body tags there. And we put a paragraph tag. Paragraph tags are basically just a way for you to write any sort of like paragraph style text, just for you to be able to organize it into a format where you can understand that this is for a paragraph. So yeah, that's pretty much how it looks. Any questions so far? Okay, great. So here's some more basic HTML tags. Again, these are really foundational for building the rest of your HTML files. So it's good to know what kind of data you want to put into various tags. So for example, if you want to put an image onto your website, you would use the image tag. And you can see there it starts with IMG. It has a source, and we'll cover like attributes a little bit later. But basically, you can see on this tag right here, I'm having source equaling image.jpg, and that basic source basically means somewhere in my directory or somewhere in my project files, I have an image called image.jpg. That's just that's what's being pulled into the web application, if you will. And then alternate text, I don't know if you guys have ever like hovered over an image, or sometimes the image doesn't even display on the website. You guys might see some text there. That's basically what we're seeing there. The thing didn't load, so when the website doesn't load, or you hover over it, that text would show up when you do that. One thing to note that is, take the difference between this tag down here and the image tag up there. Some tags are actually self-closing, and self-closing basically means at the very end of it, we didn't include the IMG. We just kind of open it, put IMG, and then we have the closing slash and then the closing caret there. So some tags are self-closing. I believe you can do it this way for all tags. But I think image is like a big one, and the next one is anchor tag. Those ones are also self-closing, so you can also do that. So for an anchor tag, you can kind of have like a hyperlink, if you will. So you can see there that our href, which is like our hyperlink, or like hyperlink reference, points to other site.html, which is maybe another HTML file in our project structure. And then the text that shows up is kind of what shows up. And then if you click that, it'll take you to other site.html. Maybe that's another page on our application. We have an H1 tag. So the H tags are kind of like a family of tags, and they stand for like header tags. So I believe it's H1 through H6, and each as you go from 1 to 6, each header size gets smaller. So this will be styled differently than a paragraph. From a paragraph is big text. It's like a header text. So if you have like a header on your website for like a big section, a separate section, then you would put in a header tag to differentiate it. We saw earlier a paragraph tag, which is like a piece. So if you have a paragraph, I don't know if anyone's ever seen like a forum, dollar, whatever. That's like commonly used Latin filler text that people use on websites when they're constructing it, or just to kind of have text there so they can see what it looks like while they're building it. So if you have paragraphs of information, maybe you're writing an article about gophers, then you have like a paragraph about where gophers live and what their eating habits are. You put it in paragraph because you want to represent paragraph information in those tags. We have a form tag, which is a little bit more complicated, and that's actually part of kind of like what we're going to be live coding today. But form tags basically allow you to put an HTML format. So if you've ever kind of have like a form where you're entering all your information, where you're signing up for something or submitting some information, there's probably a form tag powering it. So within form, this is kind of a thing that you can do in HTML. You can actually nest components as well, and we'll see this when we hopefully that's not on the last slide, but we were kind of like nesting things within the body. but this is basically known as nesting. So we're nesting an input tag within the form tag. And this input basically is a type of text. So it would appear as like a text box where it'll say use this for form data, and we'll allow the user to that or that input tag within our form. Finally, divs. This is kind of like I don't want to say the default, but this is like the most commonly used way to kind of like divide up data, because you can imagine that you have like a bunch of these tags over like a really massive, I'll say, like a Wikipedia page. How much information is there? How many paragraph tags do you think are on a Wikipedia page? Probably like a ton, okay, especially if the page is large. So divs are kind of a way to, I think it's kind of like division. There's kind of a way to section things off. So you can nest a lot of these components within a div. That's to maintain code readability and code structure. Because the last thing you want is a bunch of like randomly put out tags. So it's hard for both the developer, and it's also hard for like site semantics. A lot of like search engine optimization, if you guys have heard that term, or the way that you can search something in Google, if you search on ACN and UCP in Google, the way that Google kind of finds these websites is by the way you structure your HTML. That's just kind of the way that, if you were to include the title in the metadata section, that makes it a lot easier for Google to find your actual website, as opposed to having that there. So there's a lot of semantics that you can get into. There's a whole like search engine optimization kind of like subfield of web development that's really interesting. You guys can do that. But long story short, divs are kind of just like a way for you to divide things up and have that sectioned off. And we'll see a lot of examples of this. If this is like confusing or just sound like, oh, this is a lot, I think it'll be a well structured. Once we get into actually coding it, you guys will kind of see how we fit together and why they are the way they are. Go to the next slide. We have also HTML attributes, like you guys probably saw with the image tag. There were you can actually put stuff within the. If you guys want to like see the distinction here with this paragraph tag, you can see that this is the actual content that we put in the paragraph. This is a paragraph, but we actually have other things that are within within the tag itself. So you can see the opening caret and the closing caret there, and we put some things in there. For example, the title attributes. So if you think of attributes, they're kind of like properties almost for this tag. So title is on the tooltip, align is center, and when we get to the CSS part of things, you guys will see why these are super important. But you can basically also assign attributes, and in some cases they're actually necessary. So you talked on the previous slide that we didn't have any attributes for a paragraph, but we definitely need them for images, because attributes are the way that images actually pull the image that we want. So somewhere in our project structure, our project directory, we have an image called dungeon.jpg, and based on the alternate text, I can probably tell that it's a picture of the CSS dungeon, but basically it's the CSS building. And then we can also declare things like height and width. So if we have a really massive image and we want it to appear a certain way on our web page, we can use height and width attributes to kind of set how big it will be. So you can kind of see that a lot of these things that we put here are based on the structure of our website. And these are really important for making sure that we have all of our data and all of our information we want shown to the user all in one place. And these are just ways that we organize. Are there any questions so far? There's gonna be a lot. This is like super confusing, and this is like a new way to represent data kind of under the hood of the website. So if there are any questions, feel free to just raise your hand if you don't want to say it in front of everybody, and someone in back will help you. But hopefully everyone kind of understands this is the way that we organize all of the data that we want to put on. Good. So yeah, as you can see kind of here, we have these attributes. These are highlighting various attributes. Some are optional for some tags, some are not. For example, for input, it's definitely required because you want to specify what type of input you want. In this case, we want to have a text box. For other ones, like we said, source for images and the hyperlink for other websites, for other either other websites or other files in our directory. So this is a more put together example. So hopefully, if the last few slides didn't make sense, you can kind of see how everything fits together for one of these for a standard HTML file here. So you can kind of see that at the top we start with the doc type HTML. That's kind of like it's not as boilerplate code. A lot of times we kind of just see it as this is what needs to be there. You don't mess with it. That's how an HTML file is going to start. Then we kind of jump into the top part. So that's kind of what I was mentioning there in the head. If you can see the head tag right there and the head closing tag right here, we're nesting a bunch of these elements inside of the head tags. And that stuff is not going to be shown on the actual web page, but that's going to be super important for Google to know that our website is called an example web page based on the title there. So you can kind of see that we have organized all that in our head or our header, if you will. And then we have all of our information here in the body, and this is what's actually going to be shown on the website. So you can see that we have some two random images that we're pulling from Imgur, however you want to say it. Then we're pulling, or we're having a couple of header tags here. So like I mentioned, H1 through 3, and the header size gets smaller as we go down. So we have a couple of lines of text here, and then we have like a paragraph tag here. And then we're closing that out with body, and we're closing that out with our HTML to signify the end of our HTML. So that's kind of how it's structured as far as this goes. Hopefully you guys can kind of see how all of those individual tags put together into an actual web page. So that's what it looks like. We have our two images that we pulled from Imgur. We have our headers. You can see that this is an H1, this is an H2, this is an H3. It's getting smaller as we go along. And these are bulleted, so you can kind of see that they're different than regular paragraphs. And then we have this relatively small text. This is a regular paragraph tag. So hopefully you guys can see that it's structured this way. Are there any questions? No. So this is the part you guys all came here for. Let's actually write some HTML. So there's a couple of things that we need to do first to get you guys set up. So I asked you to download some of these things so that you are able to kind of actually have the environment to write this HTML code. So let me show you guys this for a second. So if you guys want to get your computers out and ready, I'll show you where to go for a second here. So if you guys have the slides open, that would be super helpful because there's some links that I included at the beginning. So if you guys kind of go back up to the beginning where I had these links, go ahead and go to this one right here, acmurl.com/hackschoolfa22. And that should take you to our home repository for, this is going to act as the GitHub repository for our entire project. So if you guys are kind of unfamiliar with GitHub, if you're new to it or you're just introduced to it, GitHub is kind of like a version control in the cloud sort of thing. So all the code that we write on our laptop or our desktops or our computers, we can kind of push it to GitHub so that GitHub stores a copy of it so that other developers can look at our code. Other developers can kind of like collaborate on code. This is a good way for everyone to work together if you're on a dev team. And basically, you know, if you get your laptop stolen, you still have your code on the cloud. So no worries about that. So one thing that you guys are going to do when you get to this page is you guys want to have a copy of this for yourselves. And we've kind of given you the structure of it, so you don't need to create your own. What you guys are going to want to do here is once you get to this page, you're going to want to hit fork right here. Forking a repository basically means that we have this hosted on our account. You can see that we're on the ACM UCSD account, but we want this copy of this repository to be on all of your accounts. So go ahead and hit fork up there. And it should take you to this page. I'm not going to do it because I've already done it on my account. This is my personal GitHub, but leave the name the same, or I guess if you really want to change it to whatever you want it to be. This is generally the naming convention for a repository. So go ahead and change it to this. Provide a description. We provided a description for you if you want to change it up, feel free to, but generally it's good to have descriptive things just so you know what the repository is actually about. And then go ahead and hit create fork. Make sure that this is checked, by the way. We only have one branch here for main, and we'll get into branching a little bit later, but make sure that that's checked and hit create fork, and it should fork over to your account. So we're going to give everyone like 2 minutes to do this, just in case you guys are, anyone has any issues with this sort of thing. So feel free to work in your tables. We'll have people kind of walking around helping you with getting everything forked. But yeah, go ahead and work on this for like 2 minutes, and then we'll get back to it here. So it should be ACM URL Hack School 1 slides. Yeah. And then Generally, we're recording this. Hopefully everyone on Zoom is also able to kind of get it forked over. So you guys can kind of just, hopefully you're all following along with it. Okay, I think everyone kind of has it forked over. Are there any other issues? Anyone struggling with it, or are we all good to go? I'm gonna assume we're all good to go. So now that we have it forked over, basically forking it over meant that each one of you has a copy of this repo. So you can see that 58 of you just forked it over there. So 58 of you have a copy of this on your GitHub account. So now this is yours, and anything that you upload to this will be stored on your account, and you guys can have this displayed for whomever you want to see, whether it's like you want to have a GitHub on your resume, you want to just show it your friends. Now it's on your account, and any changes that you make will not reflect on our GitHub repo there. So now that it's forked, we actually want it to be, it's forked, but it's on GitHub right now. It's not on your actual computers. It's on GitHub, but we want it to be on your computer because that's where you're actually going to be storing your code. So one thing that we need to do right now is clone it. So git clone is a command, and I'll kind of demo this on. But we want, now that the repository is out there, we want to actually have it cloned here. So the way to do that is if you go to this green code button right here, you should see kind of this URL right here. So go ahead and hit this button or copy that URL. You need to have that copied over so that when we run git clone, it knows where to go and where to pull that actual repository from the internet. So hit this green button, or not this green button, hit this green button here, and then hit this copy button right here. And this will basically copy this link for you over here. And you should be doing this from your forked copy of it, not from this general copy. So once you have that forked over, you guys can kind of open up a terminal. I think for some people, if you already have VS Code installed, you might know how to use VS Code's terminal, in which case you can also totally do that. So I'll show both ways just in case people want both flavors of it. But basically what you can do is if you don't have VS Code open yet, that's okay. Basically, you want to pull up your terminal. So this is just what it looks like on Mac. I know on Windows it's very, very similar. But basically, you can, I think it's like git bash on Windows. But on Mac, you can just open up your terminal like this. And it's up to you where you guys want to store this on your actual computer. So for me, I have like a dedicated folder to all of my projects. You can kind of run the command. Here, I'm going to put this down for a second. You can kind of run the command cd, and then you can choose whichever folder you want. Like if you want this to be on your desktop, you can just cd into desktop, and now you're on your desktop of your computer. So from that stage, you're gonna want to run the command git clone, and then you want to paste in the URL that we copied from our repository there. So running this basically, git clone basically says to your computer is going to go and reach into that repo that's on GitHub and then pull it in so you have a local copy of it. So go ahead and run this for like a minute or two. Let us know if you have any questions, but basically you want to just clone it to your computer. Okay, I think most people kind of have it squared away. If you need help, raise your hand and someone will come to you. But I think most people have it blown onto their actual computers. So here's the command again. It's super blown up if you guys need it. Basically, now what you've done by running git clone is you've created a folder somewhere on your computer, wherever you specify with the CD. You've created a folder with what should only be one file, because if you noticed in our initial GitHub repo, we just had like a README file there. So it should be somewhere on your computer now. And wherever it is, you guys can hopefully access it from there, whether it's on your desktop or in your downloads. But basically, now we can actually go ahead and get it opened into our text editor, which is VSCode. Hopefully everyone has that installed as well. A super easy way to do it. So let me just demo for you guys really quickly how it looks on mine, just in case anyone wants to see what it looks like. So for me, I have this dedicated folder called developer, and I have a lot of my projects that I do in here. I highly recommend this just if you're doing projects, so you have it all in one space. So I have this folder here, and I've kind of created this, running this has created this hackschool-fa22 folder here. So if I jump into this, I should just see, it should just be that, I think, but wherever your folder is, you should see it right there. And then if you go ahead and get VS Code open, if you have kind of like your Finder or your File Explorer open, you can in effect click and drag. Go ahead and click and drag the folder into your actual VS Code. So you can just click it. Oops. You can just go ahead and click and drag it into your VS Code window. Sometimes if you just launch VS Code, it shouldn't look like this. This is what it looks like when I've actually already clicked and dragged it in. But wherever your folder is, if you want to click it and drag it, there's also a way to actually, sometimes on some computers you can actually open it in VS Code. But code dot, I think should work if you run the terminal command from within that actual directory within that folder. But go ahead and open it in VS Code. So like I said, clicking and dragging it into VS Code should open it up, and it should basically look like this, where you kind of have just like the readme.md file open right there. So go ahead and do this, and we'll walk around and help. I think this is kind of a confusing step. So just make sure you have it open on VS Code. maybe we'll only have them like code up a file and we'll just give them. Because if they have, at least if they have the example for one, yeah. So I'll like demo it next, and then should we still have them do the other one?
They can do that one later. Yeah, if you have time. Okay, otherwise we won't have time for CSS and basic. I feel like we watched like live, or like if we're gonna have them without CSS.
Yeah. Okay.
Ideally, one of them is 30 minutes.
Do you need more than 30 minutes? You need more than 30 minutes to sit down?
Well, they also want to grab food, right?
I mean, they can just grab that. I think.
I was thinking maybe because they might get tired, like halfway, like very small, then grab food and stuff.
I think it'll be like 2K on, yeah.
So, I'm gonna tell them no.
Oh, Marcelo's in the Zoom. Oh my gosh, Marcelo learning how to code. Sorry, Marcelo, if you're saying
I'm a
anything, I
complete
can't hear you.
beginner.
It's super loud here, but
He's not saying anything.
no, he unmuted for a second, but yeah, cool. Glad to see Marcelo's here. Marcelo, I like your little image on Zoom. It's pretty fun. Okay, let's move on. Let's get a move on. Okay. Hello. Is everyone good?
Hello.
So we're gonna get into actually making an HTML page here now. So we're gonna be designing kind of like the main page of our application. So the first step that we're gonna want to take, by the way, can everyone hear me without the mic? I can't hold it and code at the same time. All right, awesome. So it should look like this for everybody. You should kind of just have this one readme.md file that I added earlier. But it should look like this for everybody. So on the left side there of VS Code, that's where all of our files are going to appear. So you can actually just go ahead and hit this little like page plus icon to create a new file. And the first one that we're going to create is index.html. And let me try to make it bigger for you guys. Is that good for you guys? Can you guys see what's going on? It's too big. So just go ahead and hit the plus icon and create an index.html file. So you can see that VS Code is automatically going to recognize that it's an HTML file and give you the little image right there. But this is where we're going to kind of start doing our actual code. So remember earlier when I mentioned that there's a lot of boilerplate code, kind of just code that you have there that represents the initial part of the structure. So sometimes that's really annoying to write. And I think it's good for you guys to learn how to write it from the start. But just for the sake of time, I'm going to show you guys a shortcut to get it going. So if you guys just type exclamation equal, it'll auto-populate with a lot of the boilerplate that you need for HTML. So remember what we said. HTML is kind of bounded by the doc type HTML and the HTML tag at the bottom there. Is everyone struggling with this?
You just was ready for now. Yeah, that's good. That's fine.
Okay, so if everyone types in exclamation equal, it should auto-populate all this code. And this is basically the boilerplate. This is our like kind of like our starter code for example. So we have everything here and we need to start filling in stuff from here. So remember that we have our header section here, and this content is not gonna appear on our actual web page. Everything that we want to appear is gonna appear in the body portion here. Okay, so we're gonna kind of just get started jumping into the body here with what we're gonna create. So for the sake of keeping things simple, and I think we're a little pressed for time here because we still have to get to CSS. So I'm gonna try to go through as much of it as I can. And if you guys are ever kind of lost, we're releasing all the code. We'll have people kind of helping out. So what I think we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of demo this and have you guys have the ability for you guys to actually write some of the code yourself. And then for the other files that we need for the project, we'll release them to you and you guys can include them in. But once you guys understand how to do one, it's very similar to the others. So for the sake of this, index.html is kind of going to be the launching point for our application. So when you go to your application, index.html is going to be like the home page that you land on. So one thing that we can kind of do is, remember when I mentioned that divs were kind of good ways to organize things? Let's go ahead and create a div right here. So you can kind of, you can use the caret thing, and VS Code should show you, that's one of the good features about VS Code. It kind of has all of the tags that are available to you. So if you just type in DI, div should show up right there. So you can kind of auto-complete it. I believe you can also just do like div and then enter, and it'll auto-complete with the open and close tag. So go ahead and do that. And we're going to open up our div and put a bunch of code within it. So within this, we're going to go ahead and create our H1 element, which is going to be like Finance Buddy. Finance Buddy is our application that we're going to be creating. Hopefully you guys saw it in the description, but going ahead and doing this basically on our web page, when we actually see it, we're going to have a header that says Finance Buddy. So we can go ahead and have that. There is everyone good up until this point? Everyone's following along. So we just have a header on our page for now within a div. The div has no visual purpose on our page for now. It's just kind of there to help us section off what code we want in what section. So for div right here, we're gonna actually have another div within it. Again, this is all for the sake of just sectioning things off. And within this div, we're gonna go ahead and include a couple of anchor tags. So remember that anchor tags kind of allow you to link to other things. So again, I can just click here and auto-complete it, and I have everything ready for me here. So for our href, for now, I'm going to leave this blank for now, but we'll come back to it. That's going to be the other two pages in our application. So here we're going to have add new purchase. And I believe if you do, we're going to have two of them. This is going to act as our nav bar of sorts. So if you on a website, you can kind of see like the nav bar, it has links to different pages. So we're going to have add new purchase as well as view all purchases. So when we actually look at our web page here, and I can actually get it launched up for you guys here. To show you what it looks like. It looks like this. So you can kind of see that we have our header right here. And then we have these two things. We haven't really defined anything within these yet. These are linking to files that don't exist yet, but you guys will have the chance to include those files. But we have add new purchase and view all purchases here, just represented like that. So hopefully everyone's good up until that point there. So kind of just for like the live coding aspect of it, now that I've shown you how to put down tags, for what you guys should do is now kind of have add more to this page, add whatever you want to kind of see to this page right here. So I'll get it kind of started for you guys. Outside of this div, create another div. And then in this div, let's go ahead and kind of put together the rest of our web page. So just to kind of like template it out for you guys, I want you guys to have like an H2 there. And then I also want you guys to have a paragraph tag. And within these two tags, we're going to leave it up to you. You guys can add whatever information you would like. Remember, the theme of this is finance tracker. So add text that's kind of like on the theme of finance. So at the top, we have finance buddy, but here we have an H2 and a paragraph. So for example, what I would write, I would put something about, like a welcome to finance buddy kind of thing. And then in the paragraph, I'd put a little description about it. But we basically want you guys to go ahead and do that. And then below that, and I'm not going to type it out for you guys. I want you guys to go ahead and do this. We're going to have you guys add in 2 images within a div. So after this section, create another div and then put in 2 images, and you can link to images from the internet. So find 2 finance related images on the internet and go ahead and link those into here. And so we'll have you guys just go ahead and do that as the coding exercise for the next few minutes. Let us know if you guys need help. But yeah, get into it. How do you open it up and look at your company? Oh yeah, so I have an extension. I don't remember how you do it. There's like a way to open up the actual the web pages and just so you can view them in the browser. Or just like from your computer.
Click on it.
I have the live server extension. That's what I'm using.
Oh, literally just go to it in your directory and just click on it.
Like where?
Like the file folder?
Oh.
Generally, like go to the file folder.
Oh, like in Finder?
So like here, right click on it and you can hit view and find it.
Oh.
Like review and find it.
Where is view and Finder?
Up there. Well. And then,
Yeah, it's
Reinstalling React next to.
we're not doing React until like 2 workshops. Okay, yeah, after we do JavaScript. Oh, okay. We do have to get to CSS though. This is taking a little longer than I thought.
How much time do you guys have? You have an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we wanted them to do a little bit more coding, but I think we're just gonna give them.
You might have to
files.
skip like a
We're just gonna give them the other HTML files.
page, you know.
Sorry about that. I don't know why I was muted, but which ones? Skip what?
These two.
I think those are kind of important, and then you just get into the rest of it.
Okay. What are you into?
This part is the important one, I think.
Yeah, okay. I had this website created. ACM.
I love the CSS.
Yes, right?
UCSD colors.
Yeah. I know.
Did you finish? With the backend and everything?
Backend is good.
Are you guys still gonna work on that?
Backend is fine.
Back?
Probably.
Wait, I'll just write it for you if you want.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that. Let's do it.
When?
In the dev team meetings that we had on Monday.
I don't know.
Okay, go ahead. We have to start there. Twice a week now, too.
You wanna start getting it?
Yes.
I think everyone was able to. Put.
Okay.
This is the wrong one. Just start by saying we're gonna get into the CSS. And then when we get to the actual CSS like style thing, in this one, then you can. So just like explain like. Say, you know, like, say something like the pretty part of it, yeah, and we can just, yeah. You want me to get them?
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna be moving on to the CSS part. I think I saw a lot of people were able to HTML. So, we're gonna be moving on to CSS, which is, making the site actually pretty. So.
Alright, so this is a main part of the CSS, you know, it's not like you're not saying you should knowledge just it, but now I'm gonna make a brief adding CSS to it. So HTML is like, here's the back, like this is not the and when you come back, HTML has CSS. Much more clear than just installation, right? Okay, so what is CSS? CSS basically is just knowledge. So over here, we have an example over here. So the key is this button, but basically it points to the element inside of the style choices. Here we have the font size is creation. Gonna set the font size and you have the organization. But actually, okay, so the first off, we have the styling, where you have the colors. Okay, so the type we have color style. Then let's start with the yeah, you have the color style, right? And lastly, there's a small screen as a now you're actually watching it. Okay, so we have selectors, which I don't know like what it is. And one, others, and then some also. We will explain the process and more. And I think it's better if you like actually implement, that's where you learn, so. Okay, so this is an example that we have. So first off, you're making a section, right? So background color. That's like a color of this color. That's going to be the color. Oh, no, thing that you see. That's the or that you can find online. You can go random color. You can just go on the and around the 21 is copy that color in. Then over here you have the example. And side you have this nice color background. This is setting it up. Okay, so what is a class and ID. The problem is that for an HTML, right, you have a different section, but what if you command all of it? You just want everything to get the same value, you just command everything in the box. And so that's the one where it's important. You just want that to get color or this value, this font, that we do the different types of yeah, so the concepts have kind of also on this thing, and the IDs are associated with. So it's just an example that we have. So you see over here for the header, so that's the div content. Then over here, you see, so that's the HTML. So for the header, you want the font size to be. And then for the class red here, you want the color to be set as red. It's like that's the thing like down all the text that you did in HTML essentially. Any questions on this?
So if it's confusing, you can think about CSS as a way to basically like reach into your HTML file, select a specific thing. Remember I was saying you guys can have like a bunch of different divs just to separate website content. Maybe you want your top website content to be red, but you want your bottom website content to be green. So using class and ID basically allows you to reach into your HTML file and select, that's why they're called selectors, select different aspects of your HTML and then style it. So maybe you want your top header to be the font Calibri. So you would reach in, so this is in a separate file there, header would reach into your HTML and style it with Calibri. And then you can see that for that paragraph tag there where it's class equals red, we're selecting dot red and then we're setting it to the color red. So that paragraph will be red. And like, because you mentioned you have a difference between ID and classes. So IDs, you can see there's a little hashtag in front of it. And then for red, which is the class, you have the dot. So remember that there are just different ways to select various elements. And there's like a whole like front end theory that you can get into because sometimes you want to style certain elements within other elements and you want precedence. So yeah, I mean, if you guys are interested in front end, I think it's like a super interesting way to figure out the logic of how you want to style things. But yeah, hopefully that clears it up for anyone who's confused.
All right, cool. That was sad, but that's where you're gonna learn more about it. So we're just gonna we start writing this in the project. Now that you're involved in the
Because I don't know how to use it.
It's the same thing. Don't worry. I'll be like right here and then I'll like narrate what you're doing. Okay. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is remember how we talked about the three different kinds of CSS testing. We basically want the cleanest way that we want to do right now is having it in an external style feed. So we want our CSS in a different file, but that file is still going to refer to our index.html file. So if you want to create, you can just go back to the creation of the file thing and then create one here. And if you want to call it like main.css, again, VSCode will automatically recognize that we're creating a CSS file and it will set it up for you there. So yeah, we're just gonna start jumping into some of the things here. So you're gonna narrate as you go along.
Wait, sorry. Okay, thank you. So here we're just gonna define the body. So like the margin for that, I set it at 0. And then after that, we just want the font size. Like, usually sometimes text can be fancy that you want. So for now, we're just gonna use like this Apple system because why not? It just has like all those. Wait, can you just copy all this? And then we're using the font style called UI.
So if you're confused about what's going on, basically we're selecting our body. So our body remembers everything that users are going to see from our HTML file, and we're giving it a margin of 0. So basically we're not having any margins around our actual body, and then we're assigning it a font family. So all the text that we're going to have in there is going to conform to this font that we're assigning here. And if you guys want different fonts, there's like different ways to do it. If you want to like Google it, putting in different fonts. but we're basically just assigning a family of fonts that we want to be associated with all the text in this section.
I think people want it, yeah.
Okay. I was gonna stop it.
Just even if
Okay.
you simplify it, put another one.
What's the workflow? Okay. Okay,
I don't think you need those two. Sorry, just
Yeah.
jump into the nav bar because
Okay,
that
yeah.
explains how it's actually.
Wait, yeah, whatever. I'm just, wait, where?
Okay, so now we're jumping into styling another element.
Also, you wanna end everything with a semicolon, by the way.
Yeah, if there's any like Java fans out there, I guess in CSS, you guys can end things with a semicolon, so you guys can get your joy from that. So now we can talk about like navbar.
Okay, so now that we're gonna do the navbar, basically it's gonna, over here, we're gonna set the background color for it.
Portion you want them to do on that.
Probably the title. Or the buttons.
Okay.
They can enter that or something. I'm just using a number that I already chose, like I already chose a color. If you wanna choose a different color, just go on Google or something, just find the RGB value, the hex one.
I think it's background.
26.
So remember with CSS, all we're doing is selecting a component of our HTML. So we're selecting our navbar component where we have those two other buttons that link to our pages that we're going to give you later. And we're just basically giving it a lot of styling to make it look nice. So we'll get into some of these attributes a little bit later. I realize we didn't cover them in the presentation, so we'll clarify these. But if you guys want to get these down for now, then once we actually go over them, you can kind of see what they actually look like. So I think a lot of the names in CSS are kind of self-explanatory. So setting the background color for navbar, it's this nice blue color that we have here. And then center and setting the bottom margin of 25 pixels. So you can kind of see that we're basically just, this is like, CSS is a very visual thing. So we're basically assigning it how it's actually going to look on the web page. So yeah, any questions thus far? There's like we'll give you guys a chance to actually write your own CSS for one of the components if you want your HTML file, but yeah.
Usually, these are like the common ones used, but yes, you can put whatever font you want in there. You can just go with one.
But it's like a collection of fonts.
Yeah. All right, so afterwards, I guess now I want you guys to do the title, like the header for it. So just use a color and align the text and maybe the margins.
So we need to give them the classes for these. Because
Yeah.
none of these have classes. So which ones need classes?
Not just got all kinds of- Navbar, we already did navbar, and then
Yeah, but none of the divs actually have it yet.
yeah, none of the other ones.
Okay, can you add them in here real quickly?
Where-
And then just mention what you're adding
Okay.
for the HTML. So it's okay. If you go up to line 12, that's the one.
Yeah, that's not part. We already did the navbar though.
Hmm?
We already did the navbar.
What do you mean?
I technically did the navbar.
Yeah, but
Right.
we didn't assign it the actual class. So how's it gonna know? Because this is just in the div.
Oh, wait. I'm confused. What are you saying?
Navbar, but we didn't call the navbar like ID or class yet because there's no IDs or classes right now. It's just bare elements.
So we have to add in the IDs and classes.
Oh, yeah. Wait,
You have the slides on here?
yeah.
Wait,
What?
the CSS in case people want to look at both.
Yeah, we have to add in the IDs. First, but.
What? No, you could in VS Code. Double
Is it-
click that.
Well,
Double click. And what? And close it on the left.
So one thing that we need to go back and do for our HTML file. So you see that we've been writing all this CSS code here, like we were selecting our body. And remember, if we go back to our HTML file, we have our body from like line 9 to line 27 here, right? But remember that when we're selecting specific elements, we do need to specify classes and IDs, remember? So does anyone remember the difference, like when I would use a hashtag or when I would use a period for a class versus ID? Yeah. So hashtag is for IDs. Remember that there's a difference between having an ID and a class. So those are just ways of specifying which elements I want to actually select. So if you look right here, we assigned we're styling our nav bar with these stylings, right? These visual elements. But we don't have nav bar anywhere on here. So we're using a hashtag here, which means we need to add an ID somewhere to this file for it to actually, for those changes to actually carry over. So does anyone have any idea of what part of this HTML file we want to add our navbar ID to? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, because remember, this is our navbar, so we want to do it for wherever we put our links. And this is kind of like representing our navbar right here, this div right here, because these two elements are contained within our navbar. So here, this. So one thing that we can do basically is inside of our div, we can assign it the ID of navbar. And now CSS knows to reach into our HTML file and actually select it and pull it. So it's a link to HTML or the CSS file. Remember in the top, can you go to the code?
Yeah.
The HTML, can you go to the index.html?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, we have a question. So it's all, so I guess the purpose for this specific exercise is just to show you guys that there's ID and class, but remember that there's differences in precedent for ID and class. I don't remember it off the top of my head, it's in the slides, but whenever, like, let's say you have a bunch of nested elements and you want to style one thing over the other thing, then you would use differences in ID and class. You'd kind of build that logic in to determine which elements you want to style first versus which elements you want to style later, if that makes sense. Yeah. And then we also have to link it.
So now we're gonna link our CSS with the HTML file. So in our HTML file, we're gonna add a link. So oh no, okay, here's this file I need to go to look at the CSS.
Just wow. And classes within that. That is even. Okay. Yeah.
Can
So
you
you
do that?
just have to have something that's in the concept file that you have your CSS. So just link the reference. I'll be, and the reference is made up.
Yeah, so do you want to tell them what to do on their own? Like they can style the page and repair that part of it.
Yeah, nothing else is. Like, oh, so yeah.
So they can style that however they want to do it, I guess. You can just tell them to select the H2. You assign this class ID if they want to, or yeah, whatever they want.
Okay, so after you do that, over here, when you did your images on the side, just wanna add sorry, these are we gonna small just add your images now and then turn on that you have of the images.
So this is kind of like the exercise for you guys to do on your own. Remember that section that we made you do where you added like the information about whatever, like the welcome to finance buddy thing, and then whatever information you wanted there. So we want you guys to style this on your own. So you can do it however you see fit. If you want to assign it a class, or if you want to assign it an ID, I think kind of what you mentioned earlier, classes are, you can have multiple classes, but IDs are for unique elements, right? So it's up to you guys, however you see fit, if you just want to practice with it, or if you just want to select the div itself. But remember, if you select the div, it'll also style this and it'll style this. So we want to have our specificity, right? So assign it whatever class you feel like, and the names can be whatever you want, so long as you reference them here properly. And remember to have this line right here, this link tag. So this goes in our header, and again, this is metadata. So this is information that's not going to be on our actual body. So nobody's going to see this link when they're actually looking at the website. But this is just basically telling us that we want to link a style sheet, and the link should be main.css, which exists in our directory here. So we want to do this to make sure that we can link main to index.html. Okay, so kind of your task for the next few minutes is just go ahead and style this div however you see fit. I suggest adding some colors, adding some like margins if you want it to be like specifically like within the middle, or if you just want it like aligned to the left or aligned to the right. There's some examples of some CSS properties that you can add there, but just go ahead and do this and we'll walk around and we'll help out. We realize that CSS is a little bit confusing, so yeah, just go for that.
Hi, so it's almost 8. So, I mean, you can continue working on it for yourself, but if you have any questions about it, if not, and we will continue on. But for now, I guess, who wants to? We'll look at the front to the back afterwards. Again, so, the first thing is.
Wait, all right, for you guys on Zoom, I think we're just about wrapped up here. So thank you for sticking with us. I know Edgar, you've been here for a while, and Marcelo, you've been here for a while as well. But yeah, thanks for sticking with us. If you have any questions, just drop them in the Discord and I'll try my best to answer them. But hopefully you guys were able to kind of follow along as much as you could. So yeah, I'm just gonna end the Zoom here. So yeah, just feel free to drop any questions you have in the Discord. Otherwise, thank you guys for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting this. It was really helpful.